Hello, Lisa.
Hey, Buck, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Nice. Welcome, everyone, to When the Body Stops Healing: Chronic Illness, Collapse, and Capacity. How an overwhelmed system blocks recovery, and what can quietly change when safety returns. I'm Dr. Bacco. I'm with Lisa Grove, a longtime client of mine and former NASA rocket scientist. We're both organic intelligence coaches. We help people build capacity through the organic intelligence approach. Today, we're talking about chronic illness from the perspective of capacity in organic intelligence. The capacity of your organism in whole, uh, your whole physiology, your whole biology to process whatever comes at it from internally or from life, which will catalyze internal stuff to process. Um, I've helped people with chronic illnesses build capacity, which supports their well-being. In some cases, the condition itself improves. For example, chronic pain, I'm thinking of, brain fog. In some cases, I don't help with the issue at all itself. Like with some Parkinson's clients, I have not helped with that at all, specifically the Parkinson's, but the capacity building does improve well-being and ease while they're suffering from the condition, unfortunately. Um, so we're going to take a look at that today, chronic illness from the perspective of capacity, inorganic intelligence. I'm going to hand it over to Lisa in a moment. She's lived long-term illness and collapse and has her own thoughts about how capacity can affect healing. Uh, we're not here giving medical advice or cures. We're exploring a unique perspective that suggests a more fundamental reason why the body sometimes can't heal, even with quote unquote perfect protocols, and what shifts when the system finally feels safer. So if you're suffering from chronic illness or you know someone who's suffering from chronic illness and there's been no progress, even with all the medical care and therapies you're trying, or progress is slow, what we say here might be of interest to you. With that said, Lisa, can I hand it over to you and will you share it with us, your experience of chronic illness and collapse, you know?
Sure, sure. I've been living with chronic illness for a decade, probably 12 years, maybe more. Lyme disease, mold, toxic mold difficulties, multiple chemical sensitivities, mast cell activation disorder. There's all sorts of acronyms you can throw at people, and there's probably three or four more. I don't like to remember them all.
Mm.
But I've gotten used to a body that would collapse on a dime, but take days or weeks to recover. A body that would suddenly be super sensitive to 100 other things and not recover from that for years. A body that only ever responded super slowly to whatever supplement, protocol, medicine, or healing modality I tried. For the past decade, much of my life has been about waiting, because that's the only thing that consistently seemed to help me recover. I had to do the bare minimum to conserve the little energy I had, so that maybe that energy would get used for healing. I had to be really careful to avoid problematic things so that my system wouldn't get a lot worse, all the while hoping that my system might eventually recover. I've spent years waiting. Time has been my only hope. If I can only hang on long enough, maybe I'll be fine.
Mm.
So, not everybody who has chronic illness experiences collapse like this. But for those who do, it can be really difficult to explain, especially when you don't really look ill. People just can't seem to grasp how anyone's illness could really go as deep as this sometimes does. And I think they likely struggle to imagine how something like this could even be real. It's easier to think the person's making it up, but believe me, it's not made up. It's only just been recently that I realized it wasn't just my illness that was behind the slowness of my recovery. My system started being in an alert, always ready to survive state when I was a toddler, and stayed that way throughout my childhood, long enough that it adopted survival as my normal baseline state. Once I became seriously ill, there just weren't enough resources left for the serious healing I needed after the survival state took its primary share. So healing was only ever slow. But that wasn't conscious. That's something I've just begun to realize. It was just how my automatic survival system got me through. And biologists have survived like this for many generations. They've prioritized survival and set healing aside for later when survival's no longer needed. I used to wonder how I could let my cells know that things were safe now, because it seemed like many times their behavior seemed just like post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'd worked for decades in therapy to recover from what mental health calls PTSD. But the therapy didn't help my cells or give me any clues how to help them. The thing that helped was understanding that the survival response needs take a huge amount of resources off the top of whatever's available for healing, for normal life, for anything, is the part that finally gave me a sense of footing. Not because it fixed anything, but because it finally made sense of what I'd been experiencing in my body all along. It was like, oh, okay, good, I understand it. There's an explanation. Thank God.
There's there's so much I'm interested. I'll start here.
Okay.
The word collapse. I mean,
Yeah.
it's big, it's in the title, you've suffered from it. Would you I know there's so much that I want to get into with your theory about survival and resources, but uh, what do you mean by collapse, and are you using it casually, technically, and what was it like, and you've talked about how people don't really know what that means if they don't feels like really if they don't have a lot of chronic illness. So could you just speak to collapse itself?
Sure. I'll go back to the months after I got bitten by a tick with Lyme virus or bacteria or whatever it is. I had a bullseye rash, and my doctor said, if these 10 days of antibiotics don't help you, go find a specialist because I'm not one. And I had a lot of resistance to bad things, a skill at resisting bad things. So for months, I watched my energy decline and my mental function decline to the point where it was like, okay, I can only go out of the house once a week to do an errand. Which one's it going to be?
Yeah.
And when I finally found a doc, I finally said, okay, I really need somebody. That doctor was able to say, you've got Lyme and you're also suffering from chronic mold, toxic mold exposure. And it took me like 4 months of the simple supplements that she gave me to help clear my brain of mold before I could really even understand what was going on.
Hmm.
And then I got rather functional again, but it came to the point where I couldn't find a place that was mold free enough to heal. So I had to sell my house. I moved in with a friend. About a year after I moved in with my friend, my health just started tanking. And I started having these really weird symptoms, and I was afraid for my life because I joined a couple of Facebook groups where people were talking about their experiences. And I was like, if I don't get out of here soon, I'm going to end up in bed. And the people who ended up in bed, some of them didn't make it. Some of them struggle through. So on my doctor's advice, I left everything behind and went and lived in the middle of nowhere all around the US, looking for a place where my system might stabilize enough to begin healing steadily. Never found one. And when my system tanked again like that, it was like, I got to get out of here
Yeah.
because I don't want to die. And if I end up in bed, it's going to be me alone with no money to support me. So I moved to Mexico.
You moved to Mexico.
Yeah, I just picked up on the advice of a health coach. She said, "Here's a good place to go. Let's try it." And I started getting better, faster.
Could you, sorry, what was the case for moving to Mexico?
The case for moving was get out of the country
Hmm.
because I'd been roaming around the country for 5 years, living in this place and that place, trying to find a geographic location where I would stabilize and consistently get better. Because my doc advised that conditions change through the seasons. So you need to be in a place through the seasons before you can say, oh, this place is good for me.
Hmm.
And it was like I ran out of places to try. And all of a sudden, my health started getting a lot worse, a lot faster.
Yeah. Prior to the moving to Mexico.
Right. So it was like, okay, it's time to jump ship. And it was months before the move was in place and,
Yeah.
everything that I needed to do before that was done. But
Um, I know I may be harping on Mexico a little bit too much, but just one more follow-up on that. Why specifically Mexico? Were there other options that you were given, or was there a
yeah,
specific?
there were options in Europe. Mexico, there was one city in Mexico that had super clean air, like one of the two cleanest air cities in the world, supposedly, according to some reports. And so that the other one was in France,
Mm,
if I remember correctly. And so that's why my coach picked this city. I didn't have enough brain function at the time to even take care of the travel arrangements. I paid people to do all that stuff for me.
yeah.
I wasn't even driving at the time. I was paying people to drive me across country to different locations.
And the move to Mexico was a pivotal moment in the healing journey
It
where you,
was,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
didn't seem like it right away.
right.
I mean, I
Um,
was afraid that I wouldn't survive because of how awful things had gotten in the US.
yeah, I also want to ask you about your relationship with willpower and exertion throughout the healing process here. So, would you say that at the beginning, and maybe you can give me some time, months or years, you were you thinking, okay, I'm going to high effort, high willpower, attentional energy on trying to heal? Is that a fair characterization? And was there some moment where you thought, okay, willpower doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to try something else?
Now that I couldn't, my brain, one of the symptoms, one of the worst symptoms that started really early was really bad brain fog.
Yeah,
I could not manage to think normally, even though the explanation for mold illness is fairly straightforward. I couldn't understand it for like 4 months.
yeah,
So, and my energy was also the other big symptom. I had hardly any energy. So effort was like, I don't have the energy, I don't have the brain power, I couldn't do effort. But effort was my go-to. I mean,
yeah.
that's how I survived before, tenacity, effort. The tenacity remained. I mean, it was like I'm holding on to life. I don't want to end up in bed and
Either I'm curious about moving to Mexico and what happened from there in the healing journey, and possibly also telling us more about your thoughts on capacity and physiology and how that relates to helping you get unstuck if you're stuck in the healing process. Yeah,
which would you like?
yeah, I was trying to
Because we'll
deliberately.
probably grab a track and stick on
I,
it.
you know, take us through more story.
Okay,
You moved to Mexico, and you didn't feel a shift at first,
no.
not dramatically, but something happened. Let's go there.
Okay. So I moved to Mexico, and remember, I'm super sensitive to mold. So if I see mold, maybe it's not a mold that I'm sensitive to, but I'm like, ah. So I'm leaving the airport and there's mold in the ceiling. And I get to my hotel and it's kind of moldy. But I check in and it's tolerable. And at that point in the US, I was only able to stay in a particular hotel night one night.
Mm.
Because when I would shower, I don't know what was happening, whether I was reacting to the water or to stuff that was in my sweat that I was washing off, but I would have to leave the room. And I could only stay in a particular hotel 1 or 2 days. So when I got to Mexico, I was assuming that I was going to need to have a string of hotels in different towns to stay in, because that had been my pattern of surviving in the US. So I check into my hotel, I put my things in my room, I take a walk on the beach because it's on the beachfront.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice,
Yeah.
expensive now because.
Yeah.
And then I thought, all right, where am I going to dinner? I asked in reception, oh, there's this steakhouse just across the street, just down a little bit. So I walked there and they sat me down at a table on the deck behind the restaurant with a glass fence so that it was like there was no fence on this deck. And the deck was over a huge lagoon. And I was sitting with my view of the huge lagoon and the sun setting
Nice.
in this super expensive restaurant, which I normally would not have gone to, but I'm like, I don't care, I need to eat. And I'm sitting there and all of a sudden my system, my body, my brain, they relaxed. Now I hadn't been able to relax anything for years, even though I'd been trying different things, different, try this technique, try that technique. Nothing, my body was just tense always.
May I interrupt? Um,
Yeah.
the are you the steakhouse? What you described just now, was it the first time you found you
It was
patronized?
my first night in Mexico.
Right. So at the steakhouse lagoon experience, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Um, you felt relaxed. Is the following true? You felt relaxed in a way, and for the first time that you haven't in a long hadn't in a long time.
No, I felt my body, my all of my muscles used to feel it was almost like every little tiny muscle was going, "Ugh,"
Hmm.
and it didn't feel like I had cramps. I could move fine, but I just always felt tense. And that let go as I was sitting there. And I
Wow.
felt my whole body like settle.
Suddenly, more or less suddenly, or
Yeah,
gradually.
more or less suddenly.
And you followed. I know I'm kind of going by my spontaneous instinct. I know we have
Yeah, sure.
things to
No,
get to,
take
but yeah. Um, y- you went with, it sounds like instinctive impulse to find, like, I need to eat. I'm gonna go to this. It's expensive, but I'm gonna go, and here's this lagoon. Did it feel like more impulse rather than like conscious thinking about what will help heal me?
No, it was impulse. It was like, I
Impulse.
need food now. Where can I go?
Right.
And probably they asked me at the steakhouse, do you want to sit inside or outside? And I would have chosen outside because I also had a super big sensitivity to Wi-Fi.
Mm.
So mold inside, Wi-Fi inside, let's go outside.
And yeah, nice. And
Yeah.
you, am I hearing you had a sense that that body letting go, that relaxation, it felt like an important part of the healing itself, not just, oh, I feel good right now. It's a nice reprieve, but it was
It
part of,
felt like something my body needed to learn to do.
yeah.
The way I thought of it, I was like, oh, this is something I've been trying to have happen for years and not succeeding. And here it just happened all by itself. I got to keep coming back here and sitting at this same table at the same time of the day so that my body can relearn how to do this. That was my thinking.
I feel good at this lagoon, at this steakhouse. I'm going to keep going back there. And you did go, you kept going back there.
About 6 months, yeah.
That's right.
Lots of money. It was expensive therapy, but it worked.
Yeah, it's damn expensive. It,
But it wasn't like I feel good here. It was like, oh, my system relaxed here. My all my muscles let go here.
and
Because
yeah.
there were too many things going on for me to say, oh, I feel good at that time. It was like, oh, something good happened.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right, right. Suffering decreased significantly with the steakhouse experience.
It was like a huge shift in one big symptom. I didn't know if it would mean shifts in other systems or more healing, but I was like, this is a thing I need. So
And
I'm
yeah,
gonna coming back here.
fitting remarkably with the fundamentals of inorganic intelligence of orientation, pleasure, and then attunement to organic impulse.
Right. And you know, it's interesting to think if I hadn't had physical mental collapse, I probably would not have listened to my system relaxing. Because I probably would have been thinking, okay, what do I need to do next? I have to do something. I can't just sit here, I have to do something. But I had been unable to do anything for so long that I was like, oh, I need to be in this spot. Whatever is happening here, I don't get it, but
Mm.
something is happening here that's beneficial.
Are you saying that your experience with collapse um was
It
key?
opened me up to accepting listening to my body and to accepting doing nothing
Oh,
as
okay.
a viable option.
I just have to repeat that. I'm gonna try to repeat it verbatim. Uh, your experience of collapse helped you,
It opened me up
opened you up to listening to your body and
and
doing,
doing nothing as a viable option.
you know, I just realized that it would have been that you should have just repeated it yourself instead of my trying to.
Ah,
Thank
it's okay.
you. Yeah, yeah. So actually, I want to continue with the story because so Mexico steakhouse, that experience, you followed your impulse for 6 months, and you could you just go? Can you keep going? Were you getting better? And then what was next? And
Well, I also started on a couple of antihistamines that are available here over the counter, one of which is not available in the US at all, and the other in the US is prescription. And for whatever reason, whether it was those two new medical pills or the experience at the steakhouse, I stopped needing to change hotels every day or two. I mean, for the first couple of weeks, I was taking taxi cabs all day long. Okay, let's look at all the hotels I can get to because most of the hotels were too moldy for my health. So I ended up finding one hotel that wasn't on the ocean, so it was affordable, and changing rooms every day in that hotel for at least a year.
I would say, okay, I'll nudge you on to the theory or ideas part because of time, but I will say, please write a book. Okay, I'll just say that I'll move on from that because I would please write a book. Do it tomorrow. Okay, so now could you
I'm
could you
sorry, I'm in the middle of another book now.
okay, okay, right, right. I look forward to that one, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
Now, so, can you lay some light theory on us, some ideas
sure,
about yeah, yeah.
sure. So let's talk about built-in survival responses.
Mm.
We humans all have that. It's an unconscious monitor that scans for are we okay or are we in danger? If that unconscious part decides we're in danger, it instantly shifts us into survival mode long before we might even be able to notice we were in danger. And its responses take huge amounts of resources because it might be like, oh, we need to run super fast to get away from that tiger, or we need to run super fast to catch that kid who's going to get hit by a car and keep us both safe. So when the survival response kicks in, when the unconscious system says go, it's stop everything, shift whatever's needed, and survive at all costs.
Yeah.
The body doesn't store energy to do that. So this survival system takes what it needs from all the different ordinary tasks of life. It borrows from things like normal consciousness, digestion, repair, detox, immune function, coordination, walking, hearing, thinking. Anything can just seem to thin out or vanish for a while because the body prioritizes survival over all things. And it sidelines normal when it senses threat. So everyday functions, when you're in the survival state, everyday functions can start feeling difficult, like I can't think right, or I'm not, I feel like I'm not here.
Mm.
And the unconscious survival system waits till the threat stops, and then it lets the energy return to the normal systems. But until then, the rest of the body can't function normally. So usually what happens is that the danger's quick and the danger passes and the person returns to normal. But when you've had long-term trauma or something else like that, your system can get used to just staying in the survival mode because it's more efficient than switching back and forth because danger just keeps coming. And eventually that can become the normal baseline.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's any failure involved in this because it's a choice of the biology. Sometimes people's systems seem to exit a decision to be in the survival mode long term fairly quickly. Others can remain in that way for decades. It's based on what the unconscious system has survived and lived and its own unique decisions about what's dangerous or not. Has nothing to do with what you can consciously decide or choose. So someone whose survival system has switched to survival being the normal state has fewer resources available because this is a high energy thing.
Yeah.
So when illnesses show up, healing might happen more slowly, especially if the illnesses are big, because there's not enough resources left after the survival response for there to be space to do healing. So if you're in a survival state for a long time, unhealed stuff might start piling up. And then along comes something big like Lyme disease or toxic mold illness, and your system crashes because suddenly there's no space left and everything's overflowing and the system is scrambling to do the normal stuff. But first it's scrambling to survive. So even the mitochondria in the cells, the little guys who make all of our energy, get the signal it's time to survive, and they crank down the energy really low. So it's kind of like, how can you let the mitochondria know that we're safe now? So that they let the energy come back online, and so that your system says, oh, we're safe now, and stops being in survival mode so that there's more space for healing.
What
So
you're
this is
oh, go
coming
ahead.
up. This
Go
is
ahead.
coming up to your capacity word.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So all biological systems have limits. There's a certain how much everything has to get done within. The capacity, the normal living, the survival, the learning, the healing, the growing. And when you're super ill, that capacity, what's left to do anything else, can be zero, or it can be overflowing and the system is scrambling. So it turns out that our biological systems can grow more capacity when it's needed. But that doesn't seem to be higher priority than surviving or taking care of normal backlog. So it doesn't happen when your system collapses. So I didn't know why my system relaxed when I sat beside the lagoon at the steakhouse in Mexico. I only knew that something happened. And I think what happened is that my system said, oh, it's safe here. So it let off some of the survival stuff, and all of a sudden there was more capacity.
Yeah.
So the unconscious system could start taking care of things that it couldn't get to before. So I can say more, but I'll pause
Yeah, no, I'm
because I see we're at time. Sorry
yeah,
about
so I'm flexible with that. I'm a little bit flexible with that. So, hmm, dang, there's so much. One just quick thing, what you're describing um fits a lot with what we see in OI all the time.
Oh,
When
yeah.
when a system is overwhelmed, it narrows, everything gets about survival. Um, were there crucial points you wanted to make in your mind right now? And if so, now's the opportunity because yeah.
I think I think somehow this place in Mexico became a safer place for my system, so it let down a lot of the survival response,
Yeah, yeah.
and I had more room for healing. And when I encountered OI, what I realized was that working with a coach does two things that help your system heal more. It's not a healing method, but working with a coach helps your unconscious system see more of the safety that's already there that it couldn't see with its survival focused view.
Hmm.
So it helps your system let go a little if there happens to be safety already there. But OI also helps your system start building capacity again. So I don't think OI helps you heal better, but I think it helps your system have the capacity to heal better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when your system's collapsed and you don't have any capacity and everything's overflowing, that's huge. Because how did I find this place where my system was going to let go? It's not like you can dial up, okay, which place in the world's going to work for me?
Yeah, yeah.
But with OI, there's a chance that your healing will start working better because you have capacity.
I tried to write down uh, uh, I tried to encapsulate your main ideas. I tried to write them down and I wanted to read them to you and have you correct them or support or amplify or
Sure.
whatever. Yeah, just to make sure I really want to get what you're saying as accurately as possible. So here's my take on what you're saying. If your healing is stuck or slow, including if treatment protocols, whatever treatment protocols you're pursuing, medical care, supplements, various therapies, including if they're not working or working much, a possible significant causal factor is that your capacity, your biological resources are taken up by survival mode, preparation for perceived immediate threat, instead of being devoted to the healing. And we want to free up, we want to free up capacity so that resources will move to healing. And we free up, so how do we do that? We free up more capacity by reducing survival mode. How do we do that? By reducing perceived threat. How do we do that? By intaking signs of safety. And you experienced this dramatically when you moved to Mexico and in the lagoon and the steakhouse.
And
New
in other places too.
right. That was just the main
Yeah,
example.
no, that was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, oh, nice. Write a book, Lisa, tomorrow. Okay, so new environment, and the new environment caused attention to be connected to it automatically. So you got a rush of safety without exertion of willpower. So it was not like techniques like I am safe, I'm picturing myself being safe, I'm telling myself I'm safe.
No, in fact, I
It was,
didn't feel safe at all. oh no, I'm in a new country. I don't speak Spanish. What's going to happen to me?
Well, that was at first, right?
Yeah, but
And
for a
then
long time.
senses connected. Oh, I
Yeah.
meant more the experiences like the steakhouse.
Yeah, I still didn't feel safe there, but my body
Oh,
was relaxing. I mean, I felt safe in that instant, but I
mm,
didn't feel safe in the greater setting yet because everything was different and I didn't know what hotel I was going to need to move to tomorrow or the next day. And I mean,
uh,
it took a while, but that was a big step.
towards more automatic uh, uh, environmental connection and then feeling safe. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was all automatic. It wasn't something that I could have chosen to do. It just happened.
So this new environment over time, there was automatic connection to the environment through the senses, feelings of safety without exertion of willpower or with much less exertion uh, of
Right.
willpower, which are all central to organic intelligence. The orientation, connecting to the environment, feeling less intensity, more safety with less willpower. I think that contrasts against an approach that would put heavy emphasis on forever using your willpower to feel safe, like
Oh yeah.
yeah, right, forever using techniques to feel safe, but never ending. But we're
Right.
saying,
And that sort of technique is going to do this with your unconscious system who's saying we're not safe because you can't talk to it. It's one of the most ancient parts of our brain.
hmm, yeah, and according to organic intelligence, it's possible not only to free up capacity, but also to increase it. That's quite distinctive to organic intelligence compared to many approaches. I put a line in here. It says the cheaper safety is, the better, which makes sense to me, and it makes sense. I think it aligns with organic intelligence. Feeling safe is crucial to reducing the survival mode, increasing resources to address healing, and the easier it is to feel safe, the less expensive it is biologically, the less drain on biological resource. You want to feel safe. Ideally, you want to get to feeling safe while minimizing the tax on the biology to feel safe. Yeah.
Right. And actually, as you're saying, feel safe, it's like what you really need is for this unconscious part who's in charge of survival to say, oh, this is safe for me.
Hmm.
I didn't feel safe while in the greater sense, as my unconscious system said, oh, this feels safe for me, and my whole body relaxed, I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? This is really cool. So it's not, it doesn't,
Yeah.
I think the best safety is the real safety, whatever your unconscious system perceives as safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not something you can go, oh, well, let's figure it out. You
Right.
can't ask it and have a discussion with it. But you're right. The feeling part is a good guide.
A question is coming up for me. I want to take you back to the steakhouse in the lagoon the first time, please. I know we've been that to a lot. I just want to right now.
That's okay. It was good food. I don't mind going back.
Good. So, could you describe your impulse to go to the steakhouse in the lagoon? Like, what were you thinking? What would it feel like? Were you thinking safety? Were you thinking pleasure? Were you not thinking it was just I have to do this? Could you, as much as possible, like the
Yeah,
near?
no, I mean, I had flown in that day, taken the transport to the hotel. It was hot and humid, and in Mexico they don't use as much electricity as the US, so even the air-conditioned spaces felt warm.
Hmm.
And I was just really worn out. And even the flying experience was super difficult because it's a high electromagnetic environment, and I was super sensitive to that at the time. Still am, but lots better. So I was exhausted. And I knew from experience that if I didn't eat protein 2 or 3 times a day, I would be worse the next day. I would have a headache. I would have much less energy. And I was already in a low energy state. So I was like, okay, I need to find food And after that, I'm just going to sleep.
Hmm.
And so I went to reception. Where's a good place to eat that I can walk to? That's not very far because it was hot and I didn't have very much energy. And it was probably about like 2 blocks, except it was just basically down the hotel's driveway to the street and across the street and half that distance again.
Yeah.
So I was just, I need food and it needs to be something that's protein.
It's very
When they said
yeah,
steak, I'm like, okay, I know there's protein in that. I mean, Mexican food sometimes is a lot of tortillas, and that's not protein. I wanted something
right.
protein heavy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, Building capacity helps a lot in life in a million ways. And in regard to chronic illness, if you feel stuck, if the progress is slow, increasing capacity may help by increasing how many resources are free, freeing the resources within your current capacity and increasing your capacity so you have more resources that may be directed to the healing process. That's just
Right. So,
my
so
nutshell.
whatever healing techniques you're doing now might actually start working better and faster.
Yeah, yeah. Um, if you're curious to learn more about Lisa Grove, about myself, about organic intelligence, there'll be links in the description. Any last words, Lisa?
If you're without hope, maybe there's hope with capacity growth.
Perfect. I
Yeah.
agree.